Hey, vegan freaks, it's January 14th, 2007, and it's podcast 56.
Hey freaks, how are you? This is Bob.
I'm Jenna.
And we're back again, finally.
Finally, sorry.
For another episode of Vegan Freak Radio. We're sorry we have been so slack in doing the show as the holidays have been killing us. End of semester killed us. Why else are we killed?
Oh, I had to go to the dentist, and you weren't feeling well.
I had to go to the doctor, and all kinds of shit.
All kinds of shit just happened all at once, and now we're back, finally.
Yeah, we are.
So we're always apologizing for being late, but you should be used to it by now.
You really should. So one of our New Year's resolutions is to turn out more shows more often. So even if they're shorter, just get them out.
Yes.
Listen to my voice breaking. Yes, I'm going through puberty again. That hairy stuff, what is that growing on me? No, anyway, yeah. Part of our goal is to get more shows out more frequently in the coming year and hopefully to hook things up for you guys. So,
yeah, I think we can do that if we actually get organized.
I know we can do that. Shit. No question in my mind. So, anyway.
But happy 2007, since this is our first show in 2007.
That's right. And, well, we got a pretty packed show for you today. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. Some things we saw in the media over the last couple, really, months, to be honest. But some things we've seen in the media. We've got the normal assortment of voicemails and emails and things like that. And I don't know. We'll just get rolling here. Get moving right into it. Is that cool?
That's cool by me.
Good by you?
Good by me.
Is that good by you, Sister Jenna?
Indeed.
Okay, good.
It is.
First and foremost, I heard from a student of mine who graduated a number of years ago. He was pretty tight. His name was Noah, and he wrote to me and said, "You bastard, I had no idea you had a podcast," because and he's not a vegan, but he took a lot of classes with me, and he said every so often he just needs his little dose of Bob, right? So I just wanted to say hi to Noah, and thanks for listening, and I can't imagine, we get emails from people who aren't vegan, or even vegetarian who listen to the show, and I can't imagine how they can stand it.
I know.
It would drive me bonkers.
Me too.
Like, I don't know. I can't listen to things that I get annoyed with.
I can't listen to right-wing radio at all.
I can.
My blood pressure goes through the roof.
I
want to throw things.
I could listen to it and laugh, though. Like, I was listening to the Michael Reagan show on Sirius. When you aren't in the car, I listen to it. And I just kind of laugh at it. Like, the shit they say is just way out there. So anyway, I wanted to say thanks to Noah for listening in and just say hi to him. Also, another thing we need to talk about is that in the next show, or maybe next show, or the one after, soon, in any case, we are going to have Gary Francione back on the show for Vegan Freak Radio interview number 2. And we, in talking with Gary about what we could do for this, we were hoping to maybe do something a little more interactive. So what we would like are your questions for him to answer. We'll send them to him. We'll choose, if we get too many, we'll just choose as many as we can ask. We'll send them to him, and he'll talk about those on the radio with us.
Yeah, and I'll post something on the forums so people in the forums can post their questions.
And you can call in with a voicemail if you want. Mm-hmm. Make it less than 30 seconds, though. Make your questions pretty brief. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can be, if you write them out, we'll kind of excerpt out. But if you're going to do a voicemail, make it less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So that it's not, and get right to the point if you can. Unlike our show, you should get right to the point. So we're going to have Gary Francione back on soon. I know he's excited to be back on the show. And speaking of Gary Francione, he's actually, we wrote a blog entry at veganfreaks.org talking about something that he had written in his blog, and there were these things talking about him being master of the bad analogy and things like that, comments that were following up from what we had written, and he came over to our blog and left some comments on the comments, and it's kind of interesting and fun, so you should go check that out. Good debate going on there. Well, relatively good debate. Worth thinking about.
Yeah. And the last time we did a show, which was eons ago, we had a voicemail from someone who was looking for vegan Indian cookbooks. And we've gotten, I think it's the same recommendation from several people. There's a cookbook called The Vegan Taste of India by Linda, Majzlik. There are way too many...
Majlik.
Way too many consonants in that one.
Majzlik.
Majzlik.
Magic.
Probably.
We'll just call her Magic.
Magic, okay. That sounds good.
Linda Magic.
So Kat from Viva UK told us about that, and one of our other listeners told us about that. So if you want a vegan Indian cookbook, there you go.
Okay.
There's one for you.
Rockin'.
Yeah. And on that show, I think it was the same show. We were talking about how in San Francisco they were trying to put up milk ads with like scented cookie strips on them. And someone from our farms who's from San Francisco said, "Oh yeah, the whole got milk, piss, and cookies in bus shelters thing has been shut down. At least the cookies part. There were complaints that some people may have scent allergies, so the transit folks pulled the scent strips the next day. Nothing was said of the utter grossness and cruelty of advertising pus filled with suffering, of course. Now, if people wouldn't take a dump in Mooney bus shelters, that would be a further progress. You know it's bad when you yearn for nostalgically for the smell of piss while waiting for the bus instead." Blech. That's from Orion from the forums. Yeah, I could see how piss would smell good in that instance.
Yeah, definitely would. So what? Also, we were mentioned in Slate magazine in an article about Whole Foods. There was a link in the article to quote angry vegans. The little link was to angry vegans, and it went right to our site, which I thought was pretty funny. There was a pretty good rant, or not rant, but a kind of an analysis of that whole thing about using us as angry vegans that was done over on whose blog was this? I meant to load this up before the show, and now I forgot. Idiot. Okay. Someone whose blog is called Satisfy the Mind kind of dissects the Slate piece pretty well and talks about how it is that, anyone who's seen to be in opposition to the mainstream is just, automatically assumed to be angry. And I like that. But I wrote kind of follow up to that entry on our forums. We got some interesting email out of that. Usually whenever we have a mention in the popular press, we end up getting some really dumb emails. And then we end up getting some really long emails from people who clearly just want to talk to a vegan. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad because I don't have the time to write. I mean, the emails we got a couple of these really long, in-depth emails full of questions like, I don't know, like why we're vegan and kind of in-depth things about veganism. And I would love to answer those questions. But ultimately, the answer to those questions is read a book.
Right.
I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the answer. And I don't write that back, but that's really what the answer to those is. And I wrote a follow-up to some of the questions I got dealing with, some of these issues about Whole Foods and things like that. And that's in our blog, and I will post a link to that in case you're interested. Is something making a weird noise?
You're buzzing. It's the trackpad on my MacBook. That's weird.
Yeah, anyway. Every time I scroll, the trackpad makes a little buzzing noise. So we got a bunch of different questions about, why we're vegan, if we're vegan for the environment, things like that. And I think the questions are so in-depth and they're honest. I almost feel bad for not being able to answer them because it would just take me forever to answer them.
Yeah, we did not get any stupid emails.
We did not.
Out of it.
So that was good. And if you want to see some of those examples of those, you can go to our blog and take a peek at those. Do we also have voicemails related to this?
Oh, yeah, you should play the one from Patrick.
Okay.
Hey, you guys. I couldn't remember your number, so I started singing the song, and then the number came to me. That's why you guys have to play songs when you go to different segments, because people like us can remember them. This is Patrick. I just delivered a huge 50-pie order to the Whole Foods market in my delivery area, and it tipped awesome. I have to say that. But you know what they didn't order? They didn't order any vegan pizzas. It was 40 fucking pepperoni pizzas and then 10 cheese. So I don't understand why vegans support that store, man, because they don't even support their vegan employees, dude. Not even one motherfucking no-cheese pizza. And you know what else? Whole Foods Market stinks like fish, dude. It stank in there, man. It kind of made me sick to my stomach. So fuck. Not even that good fat-ass tip can make me like those guys, though. They suck.
That's Patrick, who also sent me an MRE of Mexicorn. I have it on my desk in case I ever get really desperate, in case the bird flu comes and our electricity goes out and everything happens. It'll be the last thing I eat before I die. The Mexicorn. If you don't know what's up with the Mexicorn, couple shows back, inside joke. Mm-hmm. Suffice to say, I hate the fucking shit, and it'll be the last thing I eat before I die. It'll be me laying on the ground going, can I open this and squeeze it in my mouth? Dry heaving, even though I have nothing in my stomach. Anyway, Whole Foods. Anyway, the link from Slate was to an article I had written critiquing Whole Foods a while back, and John Mackey in particular, who I think is an enormous dick.
Yeah, it's like a very good segue into our next segment.
Enormous dicks. Oh,
in our last couple shows, we've been asking people to send us nominations for our Angels and Asshats Award.
And nobody came through. Not very few of you came through for us.
Very few people came through, and I thought people would, nominate people. And what I think we're really looking for was not so much the obvious, because we can come up with those.
Yeah, they're obvious.
But more of like, what are some of the small things going on? Who are some of the people, that are just doing little things that make a big difference?
Yep.
And those are angels. They don't have to be, like huge organizations or anything. But yeah, since I mentioned Segway, Asshats. John Mackey's on the list.
John Mackey is indeed one of the Asshats.
You had to expect that from us. Come on.
Of course. Well, he's tough because I think he's an asshat. I think he's an asshat mostly because, he uses this compassion thing as a marketing ploy. He uses it to generate money. Mm-hmm. It's like, the whole problem. I'm not going to go into this again. We've talked about this repeatedly.
We've done that, yes.
We also got a nomination for Peter Singer. This didn't even have to come from us.
No, it didn't.
But Vegan Kid says, I'm not sure where to put in my vote for Asshat of the Year, so I'll post it here. My vote most definitely goes to Peter Singer. There are a few reasons why, supporting Whole Foods, the whole vegan win convenient thing, etc. But the reason I'm voting for him is the same reason given in the new Abolition Online. That is, Singer's ableist beliefs and, quote, HIV research would be more useful if it were carried out on brain-damaged humans rather than chimps. Nice one, Asshat. Way to show how compassionate vegans are. And I agree. Some of the ableist things that Singer comes out with, they're just reprehensible. Absolutely reprehensible. In fact, we were reading about this. I was reading this article in Time magazine this morning while I was eating breakfast about these parents who have this disabled child, and they have chosen to have her sterilized, and they have had her growth stunted so that she's more, quote-unquote, manageable. And I thought, man, like, from a disability angle, this is really, really fucked up on so many levels, because it's like the parents are making these decisions about this child. They decide to do this so that the child will be easier to care for. It could be more easily integrated. She could be more easily integrated into the family. Things like that, right?
Yeah, but it's like drastic measures, surgery, and hormone treatments, and
stopping her growth.
Yeah,
they did all kinds of things to her, and I was thinking this is the kind of shit that Peter Singer probably would, ethically speaking, from his ethical framework, if you looked at this whole case, because it respects the rights of the parents, and because the choice of the child is probably fairly limited in this context. This is the sort of thing that Peter Singer probably would get behind.
Sure.
As a bioethicist.
Sure.
I think it's deeply problematic from a very basic level of not really knowing exactly where that development was going to go for that child, and it's like the parents presume to know what it is like to be that kid, right? We can't ever get inside the mind of that child.
No.
And that's the thing to me about rights, right? Rights should accrue to you whether you understand what those rights are or not.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that's why neither chimps nor brain damaged humans should be tested, with HIV research. We should find another way that doesn't involve people who cannot submit to these things.
Absolutely.
So that's the whole point.
And we also had a kind of interesting nomination for Asshat.
Yeah, this one comes from Ryan from VegBlog. He's got a nomination for our Asshat category. The guy who lives down the street from me who's threatened to, quote-unquote, fucking kill neighborhood dogs who shit on his lawn. He's the whole next level of assholeness because he seems convinced that it's me leaving the dog crap on his lawn. Never mind that A, we always pick up after our dog, and B, haven't walked in front of his house in a year since he started threatening people. He still slows his car down and glares at me anytime he drives by. I'm almost positive he's the one who left a pile of dog crap on our porch, too, when we were out with the dog on a walk. What a fucking tool. And then
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, and then he sent a second email out later saying that dog crap was left on his porch again.
I told him he should get an old PC and a little webcam, one of those little tiny ones you can buy on the web somewhere, put it in his window, and just record all the time.
Definitely.
Put on a motion sensor or something, and when there's motion, just record it and catch the guy in the fucking act and turn him in.
Yeah.
I don't really like the police. I don't usually like to resort to the police to solve any problems, right? But turn the motherfucker in.
Yeah.
Use him.
Yeah. That's just crazy.
Yep, it is.
Yeah,
and
so he definitely fits the asshat category.
There are a lot of insane people out there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, tons of them. Like, assloads of them. Mm-hmm. So he's definitely an asshat. And Jenna had a nomination here for an asshat.
Oh, yeah. My idea was Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Are you getting any more booze?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure, I can add some booze. You ready?
I saw you going for the sound.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because since 2006 was the year of the hunting, the canned hunt for Dick Cheney twice, and one of them he shot his friend in one of them, and apparently in Pennsylvania he was recently doing a canned hunt as well. So
canned hunts are great.
Yeah. So the problem is there's so many asshats out there.
I know, so many of them too.
And yeah,
here's another asshat.
Okay.
In a few moments, you can come up and pet the turkey if you want to.
Well, he's a given.
Yeah, he is a given. The whole thing with Iraq, though, I mean, oh my God, he just keeps offering up a failed strategy. It's like,
and not even the Republicans agree with him this time.
Yeah, he can't even get the Republicans to say okay. Yeah. What he's doing is just stretching it out until he gets out of office, so that it becomes either probably John McCain or Hillary Clinton's problem.
Yeah, I'd say those are probably the front runners.
I think so. I don't know. Yep, you can come up and pet the turkey if you want to. Okay, there are tons of asshats. Who knows where to go? But in terms of angels, people who we think have done really vital work over the last year, done things good for the movement in the last year. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Or just good things in general, right? Not even like big scale things, just really good shit. Angels. Mm-hmm. One of them, I think, actually, and I have to admit there's a little bit of bias going on here because they published something that I wrote. But I think Satya magazine over the last 3 or 4 issues has done a really phenomenal job, actually. And prior to that, I'm just going to, I'm not going to hold back. I liked Satya prior to that, but I didn't love it, right? I would read it, but I wouldn't be like, oh, when it came, I wouldn't be the first thing I tore open, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just being really honest. Yeah. But when they started doing these issues on welfareism versus kind of abolitionism, and they did the stuff on the New Green Scare, I think the magazine really got, I think much more kind of alive during those periods. And it became more vital for me in a lot of ways because these were the kinds of things I was thinking about.
Yeah, and you got to hear a lot of different voices about the issues too. It wasn't just the typical. It wasn't just hearing from Peter Singer and John Mackey, versus some other big name.
Right.
It was a lot of different people who've had different experiences, and it was really interesting.
Yeah, so I was pleased by that. I think they did a really nice job running a bunch of different angles on it and actually creating some debate. So I thought that was quite vital.
Yes. And our second nomination is someone who we had on our show, and that would be Lely.
Absolutely.
For all her hard work in putting together the Vegan Freak for a Week. And if you want to hear the interview with her, it's
back a couple shows.
Beginning November? It should be. Beginning in November. Because it was around World Vegan Day. She just did a tremendous job and worked so hard at, making this event so where all these people went vegan for a week. And I think some of them remained vegan after that.
Yeah.
And she just really pounded in, ended off with Earthlings, and I think she did a tremendous job, and it was a really great example of creative activism.
Well, she and Weege, right?
Of course. And her helper elves.
And her helper elves. Many helper elves. And all the companies that donated products to them.
Yeah.
Because, didn't Cosmo send them some stuff? And
the PCRM sent them a bunch of things.
Yeah.
There's a whole list on
There's a whole
website.
list. I don't want to short anybody. But yeah, I really like that. And I like that she... that she and we did that together. Did that thing together. That sounds a little dirty. Did you do that thing together? Sorry, I was distracted. Can you hear this? Listen out there, people. It's not doing it now. Anyway, there's a buzzing noise when I use the trackpad on Jenna's laptop. Anyway, I was looking for the interview with Lely. Where the hell is that? Okay.
It was before the
November
babies.
20th. It has the picture of the baby and a turkey on it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. It has a picture of the baby with the turkey. That's the interview with Lely if you want to go back and hear what Vegan Freak for a Week was. But what I like about Vegan Freak for a Week is that it's the kind of outreach that I think gets people involved, gets them interested, and actually shows them it's possible to be vegan. So I like that.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Definitely.
Okay.
Another positive, Gandymeter from the forums nominated Alicia Silverstone for an angel because she promotes veganism in such a cool way. She just lives her life and talks about how great it is every chance she gets. And I actually mentioned her a couple of episodes back as well when I saw an article with her, and I didn't think she'd mention the V word, but she did, and it ended up being a really positive thing in the article.
Who the heck is Nellie McKay? Is that somebody?
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing her everywhere in every vegan magazine. I have no clue who she is.
She's some singer, songwriter.
I've never heard of her. And she's in like every vegan magazine she was for a long time.
I don't know.
I don't have no clue who this person is.
I don't know.
Should I know?
I guess you should.
You youngins, I have no idea what it is. Your pop culture these days. You meddling kids. Anyway, go ahead.
Ganymeter also nominates Sarah Kramer. I would have to agree with that one.
Absolutely.
She's always working hard.
She is indeed.
And not to be a kiss at Bob and Jenna for putting out such a cool book and podcast.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
That's very nice.
That is very nice.
It is.
That's cool. And I would nominate, I mean, there's so many people on our forums and people that we've met over the internet that are just really cool and do things. But the first two that come to my mind, and I know I'm leaving out a whole bunch of awesome
here we
people.
go.
People like Lindsay, who's a teenage vegan who decided, at age 14 to go vegan.
Well,
and who does tons of activism. All the other teenage vegans on our forums, Claire.
And Claire's writing a book about
veganism.
Know. And it's actually pretty good.
I know. And all those other teenage vegans that are out there doing it, even though it's really hard because you end up like having to cook your own meals or convincing your parents to do it. So they deserve it.
They do indeed.
And, people like Deb Mango, who, really puts herself out there. She does a lot of leafleting, letters, has letter writing parties for people in prison, does a nice website, very nice blog.
So these are all
people who do small things, and yet I think added up they make a big difference.
And don't forget about our moderators, who are
course.
perhaps the most patient people on the face of the earth.
Of course.
Yes. I walk a little too proudly with the band stick, perhaps. And I don't mean the deodorant. No, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are doing really good things for veganism, and I think one of the nice things about what you were just talking about is that these small little things that people do, a lot of people don't do them because they think, oh, it's just one small little thing, it doesn't make any difference. But I think they do make a difference in the whole. If we all did one small little thing, it would make a big difference. Mm-hmm. Now that's my. Isn't that nice and peaceful and?
It is.
Kind of hippie-ish of me.
Yes.
If we all just did one thing.
Yeah.
If we all just centered our energies and looked out into the world, poured some positive love and energy out into the world, wouldn't that make it a better place to be?
It would.
Sister Jenna?
It would.
Yeah. Totally. But no, I really do think that everyone should be doing some kind of activism in their lives in whatever way they're comfortable doing it. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got some talent or skill to use. Everyone should use it. Mm-hmm. That's what I think.
I agree.
And that's why we're doing a podcast. That's why we have written a book. That's why we do all the stupid vegan shit we do.
It's not stupid.
Okay, I know. Some of it is.
Yeah, well.
Like, I don't know. Some of it can be.
Mm-hmm.
We can be weird and goofy and shit.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention an announcement.
Oh, announce.
We were on Eric's Diner.
Holy fucking shit. How do we forget that?
And I put up a posting on our Vegan Freak Radio website about it, and I put a post on the forums as well. But we were on Eric's Diner during our hiatus. He interviewed us. Finally, we've been meaning to do this.
For a year?
For a year now.
Actually, for more than a year.
Yeah.
Like a year and a half almost.
So if you want to hear another interview with us, go over to vegan.com and listen to his interview with us. And we hopefully have him on our show at some point, too. At
some point in the future. Probably the next 2 months or so. Mm-hmm. Sometime we'll have him on.
Yeah.
So yeah, how could we have forgotten about that?
I don't know.
We're knuckleheads.
Yeah.
Oh well, such is life.
Indeed. Okay.
Are we done?
Moving on. So yeah, thank you for those of you who did send in suggestions for Angels and Asshats, and I don't know if maybe we'll do it again next year. Maybe not.
Probably not.
Resounding.
We barely got much out of you out there.
Yeah, so.
It wasn't one of the most email generating concepts we've ever come up with.
Not at all.
But one of the things I do want to talk about before we go into the kind of depth of the show here is that during this coming year, I feel like we're getting into a little rut in the way that we do the show. Like, I feel like we're doing the same thing all the time. It's like, here's the news, and here's the email, and here's the voicemail. It's like, I just don't want to get... Like, I think the way to be excellent is to constantly ask yourself, how can I do this better? And what can I, how can I make this better? And then do it, right? Mm-hmm. And if you just get comfortable and you fall into that same rut and all that crap, I think it just gets dull and boring and becomes the same thing. What I'm trying to say is that in the coming year, I want to think critically about this show. And I'm never going to stop cursing. So if anyone writes in with that one, you better just give it up, right? We're never going to go G-rated.
No, of course not.
Or PG-13.
Not at all.
We're on the R NC-17, sometimes skirting the X edge there. Okay, that's where I like to surf in that R NC-17 range, right? We're a show for adults. That's fine. Mm-hmm. I have no problem with that. But I am interested in, if you have ideas or suggestions about the show, we would like to hear them. I mean, things that we might be able to do or change if you have ideas. You can't say, for example, Bob, I hate your voice, and that's a problem with the show. I can't change that. I mean, I can change it, but I could possibly talk like this. If you would prefer, I could talk from my, further down in my chest and put on a, I don't know. Here comes the cat getting ready to jump up on the table. The cat is not a usual interloper in the podcast scenario.
It's because the dogs are usually in the room with us, but they're all downstairs sleeping on the couch. So, Michi, our kitty, has actually come. Oh, he's staticky.
I'm going to grab him.
Okay. He purrs very loudly, so maybe we can get him to purr for you. Let's see. Michi purr. Oh. That was the I'm not happy with you picking me up noise.
That was don't pick me the fuck up.
Hi, Michi cat.
Now he's up on the table, and
better make sure he doesn't lay on the laptop.
He's an 18-pound cat, so he's not. He's on the table. Whew. Anyway, if we have suggestions or ideas to make the show better, we're totally game for it, and I would like to hear them. If they're constructive, if they're mean, go away.
Right.
So anyway, moving into the mainstream media for a while here. I'm dizzy.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Your sinuses hurt.
Yeah, I've had this sinus thing going on because I'm vegan and don't get enough protein. I've had this sinus thing going on where I don't have like a full-blown cold, but I just get like really dizzy and occasionally I get a bad headache. And I went to the doctor and she's like, it's your sinuses and here's some nasal spray. I mean, what the fuck? That doesn't help me any. So anyway, I'm kind of nasally and you have to deal with it. And it also occasionally a little dizzy because of the sinus ear thing going on. So if I lose my place while I'm reading, I at least now have an excuse, unlike in the past when I just have to say, hey, I can't help it, I have a PhD and I don't know how to read. So in Newsweek, this is back from a while ago, sometime in, early December.
Okay, that's not so bad.
No. In early December, this came out. And it's an article in the culture section of Newsweek called The Elusive Hunter. It's a way of life that dates to the dawn of the nation, but hunting is on the wane in America. A Sportsman's Lament by Steve Tuttle. And he says here, and I'm going to warn anyone who... I read this and it kind of bothered me. So if you are bothered by, and many of you probably should be bothered by, descriptions of animals being killed, now is the time to perhaps fast forward just a touch. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I ever killed something. It was a rabbit and I was about 12 years old. I put my gun to my shoulder and aimed, taking care to lead the target, and pulled the trigger. The animal seemed to tumble end over end in slow motion. I ran up to him excitedly and he looked up at me, shaking and still alive and making a little whimpering sound. My father reached down, picked up the rabbit by its hind legs, and gave him a karate chop on the back of the neck, killing him instantly. He looked up at me and said, "Good shot, boy," and handed me the rabbit. I was proud and devastated all at once. The rabbit felt warm in my hand, and I was trying really hard to fight back tears. The other men in the hunting party came over and slapped me on the back. Little did they know that I would have given anything to bring that rabbit back to life. I would feel sad about it for weeks. I went on to shoot a lot more game over the years, but none ever had the same emotional impact, nor did I ever get teary-eyed at the moment of the kill. In my culture, in the rural America of Western Virginia, that was the day I began to change from boy to man. Okay.
This is when I was reading the article and steam was coming out of my ears.
Yes. No. Okay. What those first couple of paragraphs tell me about hunting is that it teaches a child who cares about an animal how to suppress that care.
Exactly.
Right? How to suppress that desire not to do harm to an animal. This is how you do it. This is you put it down and you become a man by killing. Mm-hmm. So the article goes on to talk about how there aren't that many boys out there today who are growing up in the way that he did. And by the way, women hunt too, right? So let's not just keep it in those terms. But he talks about how it's a waning sport, and that
what a shame.
Certain irresponsible hunters have made the sport look sport. What the fuck? You go out and killing stuff and it's a sport? Anyway, have made the sport look not so good. And then he goes on to talk about kind of the history of hunting, and he says, for rich and poor alike, hunting has been a part of the daily rhythm and routines of American life from the beginning. Andrew Jackson was an avid hunter, so was Theodore Roosevelt. And you know what else Andrew Jackson was? He was an ethnic cleanser.
Mm-hmm.
He hated
a mass
Indians.
murdering fuckhead.
He was indeed a mass murdering fuckhead. And here's what I have to say about Andrew Jackson. Do you know why?
Why?
Because he did fucked up shit to Indians in the West.
Definitely.
I mean, basically what I would call ethnic cleansing, tricking people out of the land they lived on, defeating them and taking the land.
Massacres, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So he's no surprise he would go hunting because he didn't really see a problem with exploiting human beings either. So the article goes on and talks about kind of video game culture and Game Boys, and people need to put down the Game Boys and go out and walk through the woods and all that bullshit. And he basically says that his argument is that we need more hunters in the world because it's a way of kind of instilling family rural values in youth. And hunting is on the wane, and it's also becoming more and more expensive. So that's one thing, is that the licenses, tags, permits, and stamps are costing more and more, which is fine by me. So he concludes the article by saying, where I grew up, I was so close to nature that I once leaned out my kitchen window to take aim at a deer that had stepped into the backyard. The animal bolted before I could shoot. Score 1 for the animal. Mm-hmm. Now I am a city dweller, too busy and too far away from the country to do much hunting. But I have a son and a daughter of my own now, and I would like the chance to pass on some of what my father taught me. It's hard to write this without sounding a little mawkish, but what I learned from hunting is that things in life aren't always black and white, and that they're not always easy, but the effort put in has a direct correlation to your success. I mean, it's an American value, right? You have to do it right. You respect the gun, you respect the animal, and you respect the rules, and that translates to real life. It's hard to kill something, but you develop deep appreciation of animals in the outdoors when you do it regularly. I know non-hunters think that's absurd logic, and I understand why. But if it's part of your culture and part of the road to being a man, you find a way to face up to the hard parts and the raw emotions of it, and you do it honorably. Shooting an animal is often a gut-wrenching act, and not one that's taken lightly by anyone I know. You respect it, you honor it, and you never waste it. Most of all, you just give thanks for it.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
It is indeed.
It's
completely absurd.
Yeah. I mean, okay, it says the culture tells me I have to do X, so then I better do X. No room for questioning that culture, according to him. It's ridiculous.
It is.
No, you don't have to kill something to be a man.
No, you don't. But that's his implication here.
Exactly.
Is that hunting teaches you the manly, virtues of being tough and respecting that which you kill.
Right.
How do you respect? What I want to know is, how do you respect an animal by killing it? I mean, it's the same. This is the same shit that the happy meat people crank out too.
Exactly.
It's like, the animal died happy. Bullshit. Did you sing to it before it was killed? Who cares? It still was killed, right? Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous to me. The whole thing is patently ridiculous.
Exactly. If you respect it that much, don't kill it. Let it live its life out in its habitat.
Exactly.
You know what? We live right near the woods. We live in
Absolutely.
rural America. And
We do.
I respect it by going through the woods and taking a nice walk with the dogs.
Yep.
And I, look at the nature, and it's real pretty.
Real pretty.
And I see animals, and I don't want to shoot them.
But, Jenna, look, what good would walking in the woods do if you don't have a gun or a motorized motherfucking vehicle?
Oh, yeah, silly me.
I mean, around here, you gotta have you gotta have some kind of motor, whether it be a snowmobile or an ATV, and on top of it all, you should have some liquor and a gun.
Right.
If you're gonna do it right.
Right.
Those are the things you need to be happy in the woods around here. Like, nothing annoys me more than when I'm in the woods in the winter, snowshoeing somewhere, out, like, in the middle of nowhere. It's really quiet. I think I've talked about this on the show before. Mm-hmm. I know I have. It's like there's a moment where, both Mole usually goes when I go snowshoeing. Mole and I are in the woods. It's quiet. We both stop for a second. He stops, right? He's a dog, crazy dog. And it's the moment where he stops even, and we just hear nothing. Maybe some snow falling off of the branches. And it's like you're enjoying it, and it's really nice. And all of a sudden you hear out in the distance somewhere. Sorry, kitty. It's really fucking horrible. So this is the thing, is that I don't necessarily agree that the rural values that we see nowadays about how to treat nature and respect nature are rural values that I think need to be duplicated, because there's a lot of nature where we live, but a lot of it is fucked up by people who are assuming that they're doing the right thing with it by, either destroying it with ATVs or shooting things that live in the nature.
Right. Exactly.
So that's that rant. I'm done.
Yeah.
But you should go because there was an interesting letter the following week.
Actually, there are 2 interesting letters
Oh,
the
I
following
only
week.
read one, I think.
The first one says, "Hunting we will go." As a vegetarian and animal rights activist, now you would think that'd start off well, but it's not. Okay. I almost skipped Steve Tuttle's article. Go ahead.
Vegetarian and animal rights activist. Like, what? Okay.
I almost skipped Steve Tuttle's article, The Elusive Hunter, assuming it contained the same rhetoric I've heard from other hunters. But my assumptions were wrong. Tuttle generated his thoughtful and rational view of hunting with a nod to Native American virtues of respect and honor. I think the decline in male bonding over hunting reflects the disintegration of traditional families. Only 2 of my 8th grade students have a mom and dad who's been married only to each other. For my students, killing animals is about blood, guts, gore, and machismo. No one has stepped in to provide balance by adding honor and appreciation for all living things. Just as Tuttle laments hunters as a vanishing breed, the nuclear family dad, mentor, disciplinarian, and purveyor of family traditions and values, is also vanishing. While I'll never be a hunter and Tuttle probably won't consider vegetarianism, it was healthy for me to realize that we see similar cultural shifts and have a bit of common ground.
I mean, I had to put a drum fill after
I
that.
know.
Like, what?
Did you read the article?
How could she be a vegetarian and quote unquote animal rights activist if she actually agrees with this guy? I
know. And then she says
sorry, I'm just exploding over here.
For my students, killing animals is all about blood, guts, gore, and machismo, and it was about that for the guy too. It's all what is machismo if not male bonding
and honor
about this having to do it to
violated
become a man.
my honor.
Exactly.
Violated my honor. Say hello to my little friend. It's like I don't know what it.
I just don't know many vegetarians who would respect that.
I don't either.
Or should I say vegans?
Well, we have a lot of vegetarian listeners. Be nice.
I know.
You vegetarian listeners out there, you should really be vegan. Why are you not vegan? Why? We've asked you before plenty of times, why are you not vegan? We want to know. And we're not the dairy industry. Someone on the forums, I don't really read them that often anymore because I'm really busy working on my book. But someone on the forums, I did see this one. We require people to introduce themselves on the forums and to tell us why they're vegan, right? And someone on there said that they think that this is the kind of information the dairy industry would pay millions for, as if to imply that, in fact, our forums were a front for the dairy industry.
Yeah, I don't think so.
The dairy industry has enough money to do their own surveys.
Oh, yeah.
They don't need some undercover forum on the internet.
No.
I mean, plus, everyone knows that I work for the FBI.
Of course. Narc. Okay, the next letter, though, says, like Steve Tuttle, I grew up in rural Virginia and used to accompany my uncle when he went squirrel hunting. I admired his marksmanship, but never felt the urge to shoot an animal myself. He shot squirrels because it was sometimes the only way to put food on the table during the lean war years. Today, there are very few people who truly need to hunt in order to survive. It has become nothing more than a ritual, something you do just because your dad did it and your grandpa before him. To me, that's just not a good reason. To me, that's just not a good enough reason to take an animal's life.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. Exactly. I mean, do people really need that deer that they're going to make? A lot of them eat it, yeah, but do they really need to eat it?
Well,
in 1% of the cases, yeah, probably. There are some people out here who do hunt for food.
There are people here where we live who do hunt for food because they absolutely need it. Mm-hmm. I mean, to give people a sense of where we live, I mean, the rural poverty here is just stunning.
Yeah.
It's really sad, actually. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it's really well hidden. Mm-hmm. So people who come here, I mean, it's not really well hidden. You can see it, but it's not as obvious even as what you see. It's even worse than that. Mm-hmm. So there are people out where we live who do hunt and need to hunt in order to eat. But I think that's more, in a lot of ways, it's more of a failure of the welfare state to take care of people, to take care of the least able in our society in so many ways.
Exactly. It's because we're spending all our money killing Iraqis.
Of course.
Yeah.
Iraqis.
So that's a really good point. I mean, sport is not a good reason to take an animal's life.
And it's not vegan.
Exactly.
It is definitely not. Unless you're John Mackey, and then, of course, it's fine.
Oh, hey, there's an article. There are like 4 letters I didn't even notice. There's one from Will Tuttle.
Get out.
Yeah. He says, I am delighted that hunting is on the wane in America.
Me too.
The deliberate slaughter of innocent and unarmed animals can in no way be construed as being part of the road to being a man. It's the road to diminished sensitivity and the devastation of animal species and our environment.
What he said.
While hunting is on the wane, bird watching, hiking, mountain biking, nature photography, snorkeling, and other non-violent nature appreciating pastimes are increasing.
Hippie stuff.
According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, wildlife watchers bring nearly twice the revenue to the economy that hunters do. And just a few hunters can spoil the outdoor experience for scores of bird watchers, hikers, and nature lovers.
That's absolutely true.
He's right.
I can't, I mean, basically the woods around here are off limits to me for 6 months of the year because I'm afraid of being shot.
Yep.
You know, and people around here are out drinking their Mountain Comfort, their Mountain Dew and Southern Comfort together, out in the woods, sitting in tree stands, I don't know, having sex with one another because apparently that's what you go do in the woods. I'm kidding. Before I get the nasty emails. There's so much, I'm not trying to be homophobic. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm saying that I think a lot of these men want to be around other men and are afraid to admit that they enjoy the company of other men, and they use hunting as an excuse to go out and be with other men. Why not just admit that you enjoy being with other men and be with men? Like, why do you need some kind of intermediary? Just go out in the woods and be with men.
I don't know.
Fuckers. I don't like hunters. That should be obvious by now.
Yeah. Well, a nice, in opposition to this, we're going to now talk about Bitch Magazine.
You're going to talk about Bitch.
I'm going to talk about Bitch Magazine.
Because I didn't read that article
Okay.
yet.
Anyway, I got this bitch in the mail a couple weeks ago, and it is the green issue, it says. And I was like, I bet you they won't have anything in here about vegetarianism. But surprise, surprise, they did. I had an article entitled Friend or Food, Raising the Flag for Feminist Vegetarianism by Amy Dow. So I was very happy to see this. And I was kind of skeptical before I started reading this article because I thought, it's probably not going to be very good. But overall, I think the article was excellent and really tried to make a good point. Basically, the whole point of the article was exploring why more feminists aren't vegetarians and why more vegetarians aren't feminists.
You know, that's the exact question I'm asking in my book, except for anti-capitalists.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so she starts the article talking about, basically, she says here, anything that is so massive and, gives statistics about how many eggs and how much meat people eat per capita. She said anything that is so massive in its economic impact and so essential to our daily lives has implications for women in particular. Just like gasoline, housing, and childcare, meat production is a feminist issue. And I think that's exactly right. That feminists... her article talks more about why feminists should be vegetarians than the other way around. But she goes on to talk about sort of the history of vegetarianism and feminism, the relationship, and I'm not going to get into that. And she mentions the typical Carol Adams, the sexual politics of meat, and then gets into the whole PETA debate. There's a picture of Pam Anderson here wearing vegetables.
Okay.
And so overall, it was a really interesting exploration. She even mentions Herbivore magazine in the article, But I got to this one part. She says, what happens is that sensible daily choices about eating become linked to the goals of feminism. Eating actually becomes the frontline work of ending the oppression of animals, poor people, immigrants, and the victims of corporate global capital.
Sounds good.
I know. Up to here, I'm like, yeah, exactly. Given that roughly 98% of animals killed in the United States are killed for food, feminists could change the world just by going vegetarian.
True.
And I'm like, yeah, good. Of course, she doesn't use the word vegan in here at all.
Of course not.
Just as they could say by voting in larger numbers. And if they don't want to give up meat, they can protest sexist advertising, boycott meat from slaughterhouses that exploit women, ConAgra, IBP, Montfort Beef, and demand organic hamburgers made from free-range grass-fed cows. What a fucking cop-out.
And not vegan.
Exactly. She spends this whole article explaining why vegetarianism is important, and why a lot of feminists are vegetarian in a feminist magazine, and then goes on to say, well, if you don't want to make that hard step, she makes it like, oh, well, if you don't want to do that, it's not really necessary. Yes, it is. If everything you just wrote means anything to you, yes, it is.
It's like, hey, if you don't want to be a racist, just tell nicer racist jokes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there we see the whole, humane meat again.
She probably wasn't trying not to alienate her audience.
I'm sure. And I kind of
Little
understand
baby
that.
steps.
But still.
Baby steps, Jenna.
But she could say something like...
Stop eating meat.
You should consider vegetarianism. And here's where you can go learn more about it. And give some sources.
But she gives them the easy out.
Exactly.
Eat organic beef.
Yeah, it'll make you feel better. It won't really actually make a difference.
It's crap.
Exactly. So, but I was very overall happy to see that article in the magazine, period.
It's pretty good. You should have written a letter. That came out a long time ago, though. Didn't it? What is that popping noise?
I don't know. I think it's the cat. He's staticky. Why can't I find the date on this?
Give me.
It's like not obvious.
You know
It's
what?
fairly recent. I don't know.
You're absolutely right.
It should be right on the cover, but it's not.
It's not. It really is not.
I don't know.
It's got the barcode there.
Yeah. It's the most recent issue. It only comes out quarterly. Though.
Issue number 34, winter 2007.
Okay. There
So you have time to write them.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Write them.
Okay.
But speaking of organic, yes? Mm-hmm. We oddly enough have an article from Business Week.
Yeah, my mom sent it to me. Yeah. We're not in the habit of reading Business Week. So.
As you guess, I'm not really all that interested in Business Week, although every so often when I'm in like the dentist's office or something, I might read it. And this article is about the organic myth, and it says pastoral ideas are getting trampled as organic food goes mass market. And what it talks about is how this desire, the kind of really massive growth in the organic sector has driven organic away from its roots as this kind of small scale localized food and into this kind of industrialized, globalized agriculture that looks like the rest of agriculture just without the pesticides. Yep. So the whole article talks about that. And it begins, the article kind of follows through the thread of Stonyfield yogurt, interestingly enough. Mm-hmm. And uses Stonyfield as an example of how, well, now this company's grown. It's been bought out by Danone or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's how you say it. When we lived in Spain, it was Danone. I'm sure someone out there is offended by my pronunciation, but if you are, you can bite me. But anyway, this Stonyfield got bought out by Danone, and it talks about how they've had to find different suppliers, and they may start sourcing dried milk from New Zealand, 9,000 miles away, and all this other stuff. So it says here, as food companies scramble to find enough organically grown ingredients, they are inevitably forsaking the pastoral ethos that has defined the organic lifestyle. For some companies, it means keeping thousands of organic cows on industrial scale feedlots. For others, the scarcity of organic ingredients means looking as far afield as China, Sierra Leone, and Brazil, places where standards may be hard to enforce, workers' wages and living conditions are wary, and, say critics, increased farmland sometimes comes at a cost to the environment. And the article kind of talks about how a lot of organic producers are having to go further and further afield to find and source these products from places like China, like I said, Sierra Leone, China, and Brazil. And the concern is that no one's really found yet that these things haven't met up to the kind of met the standards yet, but the concern is that the labor laws are being violated, and it's just yet another scam, really, right? Organic is becoming another mass market scam from big business. And also there's this whole issue of animals, right? If you are trying to mass produce organic milk or organic yogurt or organic any dairy product, you need to have lots and lots of organic cows. Where the hell are you going to put them? It's not like there's enough pasture land out there or enough farmers who are growing cows or raising cows, who are raising cows on pasture to do this. So the article also raises the point that the ethics, that a lot of people who are buy-organic assume that there's an ethical component to it. And I had this happen when I got into an argument with a friend of mine he's a vegetarian, and he started challenging me over veganism. And we talk about a little bit more about this in the subscriber cast, but he started challenging me about it. And I said to him, look, dairy is really, it's bad for the cows. They die young. It leads to veal. And we went through the whole familiar litany of dairy problems. And he took me to his refrigerator. He walked me over to the fridge and opened it and pulled out a half gallon of Horizon organic milk and said, look, I care. I buy organic milk. I care about what happens to these cows. And in fact, this article talks about how Horizon is one of the most problematic. So what it says here is that the article raises this question: is an organic label appropriate for eggs produced in sheds housing more than 100,000 hens that rarely see the light of day? Can a chicken that's debeaked or allowed minimal access to the outdoors be deemed organic? Would consumers be willing to pay twice as much for organic milk if they thought the cows producing it spend most of their outdoor lives in confined dirt lots? And it goes on to talk about a report card from the Organic Integrity Project. And it says, the report card included Horizon Organic Dairy, the #1 organic milk brand in the U.S., and Aurora Organic Dairy, which makes private label products for likes of Costco and Safeway. Both dairies deny they're ethically challenged. Ethically challenged. It sounds like a PC term. But the two do operate massive corporate farms. Horizon has 8,000 cows in Idaho desert. There, the animals consume such feed as corn, barley, hay, and soybeans, as well as some grass from pasture land. The company is currently reconfiguring its facility to allow more grazing opportunities, and none of this breaks USDA rules. The agency simply says animals must have, quote, access to pasture. How much is not spelled out. It doesn't say livestock have to be out there happy and feeding 18 hours a day, says Barbara C. Robinson, who oversees the USDA's National Organic Program. And, of course, Aurora and Horizon argue that their operations are true to the organic spirit of the movement. So what's coming out of this is basically that organic is getting big, and that I think this is also what's happening kind of with the whole like humane free range shit too, right? Mm-hmm. Is this whole notion that, well, you know, there's really no, if as it becomes bigger and bigger, it ethically can't cope and be profitable. That's the difficulty it's having. That's why I think the humane meat is a ridiculous notion, and that's why I think when people think organic is a better, like organic dairy and organic meat are better, they probably are better in that they don't contain all the pesticides that you would normally get, right, bioaccumulated in flesh. Right. But on the other hand, they're not better ethically.
Not at all.
Necessarily.
They might be better for your health because they don't have all the gunk in them. But exactly. I'm amazed. It shocked me that this, like, a Business Week article basically raised the question, can it still be organic if it's not ethically okay otherwise, you know? What is and they were basically asking the question, what does organic mean? Right.
Does it just mean grown in the absence of pesticides, or does it include this kind of bigger philosophy about caring for the land and caring for localities and things like that? I always learned, and I studied in graduate school in my undergraduate years, sustainable agriculture. I studied organic production. I wrote my master's thesis on organic farms, small-scale organic farms. And certainly when I was doing that kind of work, there was this idea of what was called new agriculture that was relocalized, that was in touch with the local land, that was in touch with the local production, and meant in a lot of ways to be respectful of that. And I think that what's happening is that organic is picking up that label that I think a lot of people have in their heads about what it means and just completely co-opting it, just like the way that Whole Foods is co-opting compassion.
Exactly.
So
yeah, and they bring up Walmart in this article as well, because Walmart's saying, "Oh, look, we can sell organics and make a large profit off of it because you can get a lot of money for organics." And so what they're doing is going to China to get all their produce because they can get it cheap, and who knows if it's actually organic or not, because nobody knows if these standards are actually being upheld.
It can be tested though, but very few tests. I mean, the tests are few and far between.
Right.
Can I just say for the record that our cat's belly is very pink? Whoa.
Every time I see cat belly, I just want to rub the cat belly.
I know, he's got such a chubby little belly,
so
and I just want to poke it because it's so cute, but he gets really mad.
He hates that.
Boop.
Let's Bob lose a finger.
Boop. Sorry. This probably isn't.
Going to fall off.
He's not going to fall.
Okay.
This probably isn't as entertaining for all of you out there because you can't see me poking the cat in the belly. I should record a little video of it and put it up. So, anyway.
Right. But we actually got an email that sort of goes along these lines from someone named Laura. She says, "Hey there, you effing freaky vegan freaks. It's okay, you can say fuck to us.
It's fine. Fucking vegan freaks is great."
Yeah. "I've enjoyed your podcast for a month or so, and I've been vegan for nearly 3 years and vegetarian for 4 years before that. Generally, being vegan is a no-brainer for me, and my household has been vegan so long that my partner and I don't have to look up ingredients or worry when we eat out. I did just run across this article, and I'll get to that in a second. It highlights the problems of buying silk products. mostly because of the issues of biodiversity and worker rights. I'm not just a vegan, but I rather do clinic defense, ensuring women's rights, organic food donations to charity pantries, anti-war marches, and I'm an ally for unions and a handful of other causes. So knowing that the soy product we use in a lot of my house, from their standard soy milk to the much coveted soy nog that comes out every year, is neither kind to the environment or its workers is just gross. So this is a long-winded plea for help. Do you know of any brands that have comparable flavor? We don't need a vanilla or even a nog flavor. I'll just suck it up. But we also cook a lot with soy milk and eat cereal daily, going through to about 2 cartons a week. Thank you so much in advance, Laura. Well, just to answer that last part of the question, Vitasoy is pretty good. Are they owned by anybody big? I don't think so.
I think they're owned by Vitasoy.
Okay.
I think they're a Chinese company.
Are they really?
I'm not sure. You know what? I'll look on the
it up.
trusty webs.
Okay, while I read the rest of this. So Vitasoy, silk honestly has one of the best textures and flavors just because it's so rich. But yeah, it's just ethically sketchy. And I'll read this as to show you why. And this comes from the Organic Consumers Association, and it says, boycott the shameless 7, organic outlaws labeling factory farm milk as USDA organic. While USDA bureaucrats drag their feet on closing key loopholes in national organic standards, retailers, wholesales, and major organic brands are continuing to sell milk and dairy products labeled as USDA organic, even though most or all of their milk is coming from factory farm feedlots where the animals have been brought in from conventional farms and are kept in intensive confinement with little or no access to pasture. The Organic Consumers Association is expanding its boycott of Horizon and Aurora organic dairy products to include 5 national private label organic milk brands supplied by Aurora, as well as 2 leading organic soy products, Silk and White Wave, owned by Horizon's parent company, Dean Foods. It is time to turn up the heat on the shameless 7. While thousands of organic consumers and a number of natural food stores and cooperatives have joined the boycott, major national large grocery retailers have ignored the boycott. Aurora, I can't say that. I can't say the word
either.
Rural, I can't pronounce rural.
The rural juror.
Rural juror. Or Aurora. I can't do 2 R's like that. Organic supplies milk for several private label organic milk brands, including Costco's Kirkland Signature, Safeway's O Organics brand, Publix's High Meadows, Giants Nature's Promise, and Wild Oats organic milk. Aurora Organic received a failing grade from the Cornucopia Institute's survey over organic dairies for its practice of intensive confinement of dairy cows. And then they have a link to pictures. The Cornucopia Institute recently blew the whistle on Aurora Organics greenwashing and its bogus certification of animal welfare. Additionally, it has been revealed that much of the soy for Dean Foods' White Wave tofu and Silk soy milk products are sourced abroad, primarily from Brazil and China. Environmental standards and workers' rights are routinely violated in these 2 countries. Yes, and Dean Foods, like I said, owns a dairy and owns soy. So you're supporting a dairy when you buy Silk, which is unfortunate. And they're really big in the Center for Consumer Freedom, which basically attacks vegetarians and vegans as much as possible.
Yep, calls them terrorists.
Yeah.
Vitasoy, by the way.
Yes.
The Vitasoy story began in 1940 with a big idea and a little bean. The bean was soy, sometimes known as the cow of China, the main source of protein for the Chinese people for over 3,000 years. The big idea, the brainchild of founder Dr. K.S. Low, was to take the cow of China and literally milk it. Oh, what a non-vegan analogy. And so Vitasoy was born, a nutritious, high-protein soy milk drink that was sold at an affordable price to the people of Hong Kong at that time. At first, Vitasoy was delivered fresh door-to-door on bicycles, and it had to be sold at once or it would spoil. Business grew very slowly when the war interrupted production in 1941. Sales were only about 1,000 bottles a day. But anyway, point is, Vitasoy, I think, is a company that's based in Hong Kong. Now a listed company on the stock exchange of Hong Kong with plants located in mainland China, Hong Kong, Australia, and the USA, Vitasoy International is a dynamic international organization setting new standards of quality and innovation wherever its products are sold. Vitasoy.com.
Okay.
That's the kind I like, actually.
Yeah, and they do have a holly nog. So if you're into the nog flavor, apparently it's not quite as good as Silk Nog from what people tell me, but I don't like the nog flavor, so I couldn't tell you.
Look, I took a little film of me with the cat.
And major organic brands continue to sell milk and dairy products. And me reading in the background.
I'll post that in the show notes.
Okay.
A little picture of the cat attacking me just for trying to pet him. He gets really pissed, man. He's like, "Wow." Okay.
He's very particular.
He is. He took off because I fuck with him too much. Yeah. I was just trying to pet him in his belly.
He's very particular about how he likes to be pet. So. But anyway.
Okay, sorry. We're distracted.
Yeah.
I'm ADD boy.
For those of you, I think...
Let's call it... This is just going on way too long.
Okay. We'll just...
Go ahead, finish your sentence.
Okay. The Natura brand. It's from Canada.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a pretty good one, too, if you can get that one. We can get it up here. I don't know if you can get it elsewhere in the U.S., but you can obviously get it in Canada. It's from Montreal.
Yeah.
And I think they're pretty much owned by themselves, and they're a small company.
Yeah, I think so.
So, other than that, I don't know.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Yeah, I think now we're ready for voicemails.
Should I play the theme song?
Yeah.
Okay.
Time once again for some vegan freak voicemail. Maybe we'll hear from a hot chick
or a choice male.
Callers make us happy and help us keep our sanity, even if all they wanna do is fucking complain about the shitload of profanity.
Hey vegan freaks, this is Caitlin, Vegelin on the forums. I just wanted to call and share a few holiday stories and ask a question. This was the first vegan Christmas for my fiance and I. We just became vegan about a month ago. And things actually went really well. We made some recipes from La Dolce Vegan that went over really well with our very not vegan families, especially the yellow split pea chowder. We took my fiance's family to Horizons for his birthday, which is the vegan restaurant in Philadelphia. And we got our share of jokes, but I think we pretty much proved that we don't eat iceberg lettuce and soggy tofu all day. So anyway, I just had a question about how to deal with some non-vegan presents. And I got a few of these since I went vegan recently, and my family doesn't really get it entirely yet. I just said stuff like, oh, it doesn't fit right, to exchange some of it, but I got this really thoughtful present for my dad, which he bought for me before I went vegan. It's this knitting pattern from Ireland, which is important to him because he's really into our Irish heritage. And it means a lot to me that he's including me in that, but it came with a bunch of Irish wool to make the sweater from. So do you guys have any suggestions for handling this? Because I'm not comfortable using the wool, but I also don't want to hurt my dad's feelings, and I have no idea what to do with the wool. So any ideas are much appreciated. That's about it. Just want to say I really enjoy the show. You guys are very, very helpful to us brand new vegans, and thanks for everything.
Cool.
In stereo.
Yeah.
That's a tough one because, of course, you don't want to hurt your family's feelings, but you.
By the way, though, before we were at Horizons not long ago.
Yeah, we were at Horizons.
It was pretty good.
It was. The food was delicious.
I think it's a little stuck in the meat-centered paradigm. Like, I wanted them to break out of that a little bit.
Yeah, everything was tofu, tempeh, or seitan.
But it was all done in the way of what would have been a meat.
Right.
I think they could have broken out of that. Like, I think interesting vegan cooking breaks away from that paradigm.
Yeah, and uses a lot more fresh vegetables. Granted, it is winter, and maybe that, I don't know if they do that all the time. Or
but
if
it was
winter,
really fucking good.
But it was really good. And we had creme brulee.
Yeah, it was good.
I was like, I never thought I'd eat it again, but it was very tasty.
It was. Okay, but back to Caitlin's question.
Right, yeah. But, you can't just do things because you want, you don't want to hurt your family's feelings. So I think you have to stand up for yourself a little bit and not offend him.
Oh, she's trying not to offend her dad,
I
though.
know, and that's what I mean. You can do it in a way that doesn't offend him.
How could you do it, though? This means, like, so much to him. I mean, like, clearly this is, like, related to his patria or whatever you want to call it, and it has a place in his heart, and he gave it to her because he wanted her to share that place. Yeah,
but I would wonder if you could perhaps buy some other yarn and make just the sweater pattern, because part of it's the pattern. And I know that the wool comes from Ireland as well. I guess you could, make the sweater with the wool and just give the sweater away to someone in your family.
Could do that.
Or give the wool, does anybody else in your family knit? You could maybe give the wool to them to make the sweater out of.
I think it's really tough because you don't want to look ungrateful, especially when it's a present that clearly means so much to someone.
Yeah, but you also don't want to.
But you also don't want to send the
message that wool is okay.
That you want wool from then on.
Right.
So I think that's a really hard question, Caitlin.
Right.
People ask us like we know.
Some people. I know some knitters out there decided to go vegan, and they have a lot of wool left in their stash, basically. And what they do is they use it up and give it away. They don't keep the wool. They give it away. So you could kind of consider that pre-gan, since he did buy it before you went vegan. knit the sweater out of it and give the sweater away.
That's a good idea. Give it to someone in your family.
Yeah.
And give it to them and say, like, this is a gift that, I wanted to give you because I think it's really special. Mm-hmm. Or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that's probably the best way to both be honest kind of to yourself and to your ideas, and also not to really hurt your family.
Yeah, and then maybe make yourself a second sweater with, a vegan knit.
True.
And just using the same pattern, and show your dad, say, look, I made this sweater, give it away. I made this sweater for myself because it wasn't wool. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe bring it up eventually.
It's hard to answer questions like this because I realize that whatever I say, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
However I answer it, we're going to get emails telling me that it was wrong.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on so many different things, like your relationship with your family, and I don't know. I don't think there's a single answer.
Some families are okay with you returning gifts or stuff, and some aren't at all.
Sure, but she said she already returned the things that clearly didn't fit, etc.
Right.
And that's a good excuse if you don't want to hurt people. You should. I mean, it's worth letting people know too what is and is not vegan in the long run. Mm-hmm. We're pretty fortunate. Our families are pretty on the ball in that in that way.
This is true
and thoughtful.
Yes.
So, although my brother asked me if I ate flour. Do flour.
You wear polyester.
Yeah, that was the one.
Polyester's vegan.
Do we wear polyester? Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, they were being thoughtful, though.
They were. They thought because it was synthetic, maybe we only wear natural fibers, but...
And, I know Zach, my brother, never listens to the show, but my mom and dad do, so you can tell them. Mom and dad listen. You can tell Carly, which is my brother's girlfriend, that we really appreciate. She always goes out of her way to find good vegan stuff for us, and so do my parents, and so does my kind of sister, cousin. She's more of my sister than anything. My cousin Lisa also always buys us nice vegan stuff too.
That's
so
true.
We always get good vegan treats from them. But Carly actually always hooks us up. She makes us vegan desserts every time we're there.
I know.
Good vegan desserts.
I know. It's awesome.
And she also bought us peanut juice.
She did.
Because they're hard to find,
Too.
They're really
so
tough
good.
to find. So. Anyway, we've got a line on the peanut chews. For those of you that don't know about peanut chews, you should. They're vegan and they're
Apparently
righteous.
Wawa has them if you're in Philly.
If you're in Philly, Wawa. Go to Wawa. They've got them for $0.25. There's like 3 in the package. Oh, my God. Anyway, next voicemail.
Yeah.
And thanks for calling in, Caitlin, and thanks for the thoughtful words.
Hi, this is Juliet calling from Rochester, New York, and I just became a vegan very recently, and I'm pretty psyched about it. But I have a question. I have some eggs in my fridge, and I have one friend who I'm never going to be able to convince not to be a vegan. And I know that this person would use the eggs if I gave the eggs to this person. Not only that, if I gave the eggs to them, then that would prevent them from buying another carton of eggs. And I guess I'm wondering, is it wrong to be giving these eggs, which I have a problem eating, is it wrong to give these eggs to my friends and, encourage them to eat them, essentially, even though it's discouraging them from buying one extra carton of eggs in their lifetime? Or should I just throw these away? So I guess I just wanted your thoughts on this moral dilemma. Okay, love your show. Thanks. Bye.
Well, considering that you probably left that voicemail like a month ago, the eggs are probably long since rotten, and shit, we're sorry. But I think you should give them the eggs.
Yeah, you already bought them.
You already bought them, and you're just going to throw them at someone you don't like, probably. I don't know. What else would you do with them?
Well, throwing them away, I think, would just be a total waste. I mean, you already bought them, so...
But there's an educational moment here.
Yes.
You give the person the eggs, and they almost always will say to you, why are you giving me these? And you say, because I'm going vegan. And then if the person is thoughtful, they will say, well, why are you going vegan? You say, because those eggs were produced in by hens that are tortured. Well, you don't have to say it quite but you can explain in that eggs can be, I don't know. I feel like it could be a moment.
This is very true.
I mean,
a lot of people, when they decide to go vegan, some people go the route where they'll finish off everything that they have in their fridge and then say, okay, I'm vegan. And then some people will say, I can't do it anymore, and either throw away the things that are in their cupboards or their fridge, or they'll give them to other people that they know who would eat them. So
I say give them away.
Yep, exactly.
That was easy. Well, cool. And congratulations on going vegan.
Yes.
Stay vegan. And if we can help you stay vegan, let us know.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is Sean from Washington. I just heard on your podcast somebody talking about the problem of their apartment smelling like something really foul that somebody else was cooking in the apartment below or around them, and they had a problem with an air freshener or something. And I had a suggestion. A friend of mine that's a nurse gave me something that works really well for any foul odor. It's called Medi-Air, and I think it's spelled MEDI -AIRE, but I'm not sure. And you can buy it on the internet, and it's not real expensive. It's a really small bottle for like $7, so it looks like it's expensive, but the small bottle lasts forever. And it's for the medical industry to get rid of the smell of, decaying flesh and stuff like that, and really bad odors. So it would work perfectly, I think, for him or her. So tell them, give that a try, and that should work. It's knocked out every really nasty thing I've ever come across. So
wow.
Tell them, give that a try. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Medi-Air. There you go. For the smell of decaying flesh and or cooking flesh.
Yes.
I wonder.
I bet it would work on dog farts.
He doesn't fart too much.
No, he does. Our dog doesn't fart anymore.
I'm going to look this up now.
Okay.
I should have looked it up before the show. Do I ever think to do that? No.
But
I'm trying to type on your keyboard. It's all American fucking QWERTY layout. I use the Dvorak. Oh my God. So many different. Medi-Air Biological Odor Eliminator. 8-ounce spray bottle. Oh, it's a spray bottle.
Ah.
I see. $11. This is Allegro Medical. Let's see. Eliminates unpleasant odors. Fresh air scent rejuvenates the air. With a long-lasting fresh air scent. Wow, we should get some of that, man.
We should. It's probably also good for if you have Omni roommates to use in the bathroom when they're done.
Omnipoo.
Omnipoo stinks.
Oh my God, my building on campus sometimes is really disgusting in that way. I'm sure many of you out there have stories.
Oh yeah, there's plenty on the forums.
Please don't share.
There's a whole thread on poo.
Oh my, well, you get vegans together, before long they're going to argue about honey, they're going to talk about poop.
Yep.
And they're going to get into like some fight about...
Whoa, you all right?
Sorry. Something got caught in my throat. Probably I don't know, lung earth balance or whatever it is. All right, now I'm looking on the Medi-Air website and I have to get back to our show.
Yes, we need to play the last voicemail.
Here it goes.
Oh no, here we go again.
All right, hang on a second. Jenna, now's when you have to deal with the live radio question.
Oh, yay.
It's live radio, so keep talking. We got to keep it going here. It's not live, but it's live for us because I don't feel like editing.
Right.
I could edit.
Right.
I don't feel like editing. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I'm lazy. Uh-oh. I'm wicked and I'm lazy.
So anyway, how you doing today, Bob?
Come on, man.
All right. Well,
you could fill the air with something better like that.
Let's see. What did I have?
By the time you figure out what the fuck you're talking about.
Hey, vegan freaks. What's up? My name is Tambra. I'm from Chicago. And I'm calling for a few reasons. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you so much for your podcast. I'm a new listener, relatively new. I've been listening to your podcast for about 2 months, probably, and I love every single one that I've heard. Secondly, I've been a vegetarian for 12 years, and I've been a vegan for 3 of those years. I've been sort of transitioning over. I kind of went without dairy 7 years ago and then went hardcore vegan about 3 years ago. So it's been definitely interesting lifestyle. I've always, I think, been inclined to be a vegetarian. My mom even told me that when I was a baby, that she'd have to put meat wrapped up in vegetables and fruit, baby food, to get me to eat it. So I think that when I finally went all the way, my parents were not surprised at all. I stopped eating seafood at 4, throwing fish sticks across the room. There's a lot of seafood I've never even had because I've never wanted to try it. Always never wanted to hurt the animals. But, Mommy, it had to die. That's what I would tell her, you know. And then when I was 10, I stopped eating red meat. When I was 15, I stopped eating chicken and poultry and stopped eating the dead bodies. And then when I was 20, I stopped eating dairy. And right before my 25th birthday, I was making a batch of cookies, cracked the first egg, added it in, no shells, cracked the second egg, it was fertilized, I cried my eyes out, and that's when I realized there's no way in the world I can be a vegetarian, call myself a vegetarian, if I eat eggs. My question, or I should say my comment, would be in regards to the podcast that you guys did about Thanksgiving and babies as dead food and stuff like that. Dead babies as food, I think is what it was called. And there was a listener that had, talked about people bombarding him with questions on, what in the world do you eat? And he wanted something put together, some sort of like highly researched paper that he just seemed like he was kind of in the dark about. But I just wanted to call in and say that I get that all the time. And that's the number one question I get asked all the time is, oh my goodness, you're a vegan? What do you eat? And I turn to people and I say, you know what? It's easier to explain it like this. I'll tell you what I don't eat. And I don't eat anything that comes from a body. So they can pretty much figure that out. To say that it's the easiest way to describe it is I just don't eat anything that comes from a body. I think it's weird. I think it's mean. I think it's cruel. I don't eat dead bodies. I don't eat body fluids. And I get a little bit graphic, but I'm also very sick of being asked that question because it's like, I know what I eat, and I know if I didn't eat this way, I don't know what in the world I would eat if I was in your world as an omnivore, and it drives me up a wall. There's a really great book by Peter Cox. It's called You Don't Need Meat, and it's just, I recommend it to everybody when they ask me what do I eat because it just covers everything in a nutshell. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the podcast, and keep up the good work. Bye.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is your name Tambra or Tamara? I couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell, yeah.
So, but anyhow, T, thank you very much for the kind words. I think that's great advice. I used to say I don't eat anything with a face, anything with farts.
Yeah. I like that. I don't eat anything that comes from a body.
Yeah, that's good. But then they'd be like, do you eat mussels? Do you eat clams? Clams don't have a body. I could just...
Yeah.
Believe me. I've had students over the years, and so many of them have asked me, I've been asked so many of these questions and said some of these responses and gotten things back like, do you eat oysters? But no, good point. I think you don't eat anything with a body. I think that'll probably... I think it's succinct enough to get people to be like, whoa, what?
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And it sounds like you were, like you said, basically a vegan in training all those years.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's great that you had, part of the reason I wanted to play this voicemail in particular is because I liked your story. I mean, I think it's good for people to hear different vegan stories, and the whole moment of revelation when you crack that egg was just great. So
a lot of people have different moments of revelation, but cool.
Yeah. So thank you.
Absolutely. And we're glad you're enjoying the show.
Yeah. And I have actually never heard of that book you mentioned. So.
I haven't either. I just wrote it down so I won't forget to go check it out.
Cool.
That's good. So are we done with the voicemails? Should I play the closing theme too?
Why don't
Let's do it.
267-295-1944. Write the number down on your refrigerator door. Add the 001 country code if you call us from Vienna. That's how you leave a voicemail for good old Bob and Jenna.
Great. Do anything else?
I don't know. Did you want to talk about that stuff in that book?
Well,
I forgot to do.
Okay, I could do this really briefly.
Okay.
I'm doing some reading for my own book. I'm in the process of writing a book that will be due out in November, January, or February of 2007 or 8. Like 2007 if it's November, January, February if it's 08. And I'm writing that book right now. And I was reading. I read some anti-animal rights stuff just to kind of wrap my head around some of the arguments. And one of the books I'm reading is called Putting Humans First: Why We Are Nature's Favorite. And it's an interesting book because it doesn't really... I think part of the problem is that it doesn't understand why people are vegan and why we would care. And the second chapter in the book is called The Case for Speciesism. And it begins, I am a speciesist. I admit it. So... that's the first sentence in the chapter. So the guy goes through the chapter talking about this kind of ethic of a reverence for life, of not wanting to kill things more than one should have to, right? Not wanting to create any harm on the earth. And ultimately he comes down to this idea that, look, he says, Well, first off, he says, we must acknowledge that there is a hierarchy within the class of living beings, such that some living things are of lower quality, others of higher. So he makes that point in there. And he says that basically one has no choice but to destroy some life in order to live. And that is true. One has no choice but to destroy some life in order to live. One must destroy, and he goes and says, look, one has to destroy a plant to eat. That's all there is to it. Even if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you have to kill plants in order to live. And that's true. But the difference is that when you kill a plant, it doesn't feel anything.
Yep.
When you kill an animal, it does.
Indeed.
And that's why this guy is a fucking idiot.
Yeah. He is indeed a speciesist.
Yep.
Just because something's different does not mean it's lower quality.
Well, this is the problem with the quality argument.
Yeah.
Is that we are judging quality by our standards.
Of course.
So
exactly.
Having, for example, rational cognition and language and being able to walk on two legs to us is a quality.
Mm-hmm.
To our dogs, quality is having a great sense of smell, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their life is like to them.
Yeah, but it's obvious, like, for example, our dog Mole experiences the world through his mouth and through his nose.
He experiences the world in a completely different way than we do.
Exactly.
So,
and who's to say that's any less valid than our
it's
experience?
no less valid.
Yeah.
But it means that if he had to define what it meant to be, the top of being, he would define it in a very different way than we do.
Completely.
And that's part of the reason why this guy is a fucking idiot, and I hate the book. But I am going to write some things against it because these are common arguments you hear.
Yeah.
And they're even published arguments. I mean, like, these are the things you hear from, idiot interlocutors that you run into on the street who want to argue with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you run into them on the street necessarily, but if you're leafleting, you do. But
sure.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about that briefly because I ran across that when I was doing some reading and it annoyed me enough. But I think what we need to do is close the show.
Okay.
I think we need
Let's
to pull this thing to a close.
All right. And like we said at the beginning of the show, if you have any suggestions for us and how we could make the show better, some
things you want to hear,
yeah, let us know.
Yep.
You can email us.
Podcast@veganfreak.com.
You can call us.
267-295-1944.
You can leave us comments on our site.
Yep. Podcast.veganfreak.com.
Or you can go to our forums.
Veganfreaks.net/forum.
There you go.
But registration's closed anyway.
Registration's closed for now, but February.
Okay.
You can come back. And that's about it.
Cool. Well, be in touch, and we'd love to hear from you. And have a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Under your nose, we walk the earth and change it, but follow. Lord, I'm a vegan freak. That's what you think. I'm a vegan freak. It's your opinion. I'm a vegan freak. Just that I'm not. I'm a vegan freak. It's so easy to provide. If you miss, say you're vegan. The coat on your back.
Hey, Vegan Freaks. It's January 14th, 2007, and it's podcast 56.
Hey freaks, how are you? This is Bob.
I'm Jenna.
And we're back again, finally.
Finally, sorry.
For another episode of Vegan Freak Radio. We're sorry we have been so slack in doing the show as the holidays have been killing us. End of semester killed us. Why else are we killed?
I had to go to the dentist, and you weren't feeling well.
I had to go to the doctor, and all kinds of shit.
All kinds of shit just happened all at once, and now we're back, finally.
Yeah, we are.
So we're always apologizing for being late, but you should be used to it by now.
You really should. So one of our New Year's resolutions is to turn out more shows more often. So even if they're shorter, just get them out.
Yes.
Listen to my voice breaking. Like, yes, I'm going through puberty again. That hairy stuff, what is that growing on me? No, anyway, yeah. Part of our goal is to get more shows out more frequently in the coming year, and hopefully to hook things up for you guys. So,
yeah, I think we can do that if we actually get organized.
I know we can do that. Shit, no question in my mind.
So
anyway.
But happy 2007, since this is our first show in 2007.
That's right. And well, we got a pretty packed show for you today. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. Some things we saw in the media over the last couple, really, months, to be honest. But some things we've seen in the media. We've got the normal assortment of voicemails and emails and things like that. And I don't know. We'll just get rolling here. Get moving right into it. Is that cool?
That's cool by me.
Good by you?
Good by me.
Is that good by you, Sister Jenna?
Indeed.
Okay, good.
It is.
First and foremost,
I don't understand why vegans support that store, man, because they don't even support their vegan employees, dude. Not even one motherfucking no-cheese pizza. And you know what else? Whole Foods Market stinks like fish, dude. It stank in there, man. It kind of made me sick to my stomach. So, fuck. Not even that good fat-ass tip can make me like those guys, though. They suck.
That's Patrick, who also sent me an MRE of Mexicorn. I have it on my desk in case I ever get really desperate. In case the bird flu comes and our electricity goes out and everything happens. It'll be the last thing I eat before I die. The Mexicorn. If you don't know what's up with the Mexicorn, couple shows back, inside joke. Mm-hmm. Suffice to say, I hate the fucking shit, and it'll be the last thing I eat before I die. It'll be me laying on the ground going, can I open this and squeeze it in my mouth? Dry heaving, even though I have nothing in my stomach. Anyway, Whole Foods. Anyway, the link from Slate was to an article I had written critiquing Whole Foods a while back, and John Mackey in particular, who I think is an enormous dick.
Yeah, it's like a very good segue into our next segment.
Enormous dicks. Oh.
In our last couple shows, we've been asking people to send us nominations for our Angels and Asshats Award.
And nobody came through. Very few of you came through for us.
Very few people came through, and I thought people would, nominate people. And what I think we're really looking for was not so much the obvious, because we can come up with those.
Yeah, they're obvious.
But more of like, what are some of the small things going on? Who are some of the people, that are just doing little things that make a big difference?
Yep.
And those are angels. They don't have to be, like huge organizations or anything. But yeah, since I mentioned Segway, Asshats. John Mackey's on the list.
John Mackey is indeed one of the Asshats.
You had to expect that from us. Come on.
Of course. Well, he's tough because I think he's an asshat. I think he's an asshat mostly because he uses this compassion thing as a marketing ploy. He uses it to generate money. Mm-hmm. It's like. The whole problem. I'm not going to go into this again. Is that anyone who's seen to be in opposition to the mainstream is just automatically assumed to be angry, and I like that. But I wrote kind of follow up to that entry on our forums. We got some interesting email out of that. Usually whenever we have a mention in the popular press, we end up getting some really dumb emails, and then we end up getting some really long emails from people who clearly just want to talk to a vegan. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad because I don't have the time to write. I mean, the emails we got a couple of these really long, in-depth emails full of questions like, I don't know, like why we're vegan and kind of in-depth things about veganism. And I would love to answer those questions. But ultimately, the answer to those questions is read a book.
Right.
I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the answer. And I don't write that back, but that's really what the answer to those is. And I wrote a follow-up to some of the questions I got dealing with, some of these issues about Whole Foods and things like that. And that's in our blog, and I will post a link to that in case you're interested. Is something making a weird noise?
You're buzzing. It's the trackpad on my MacBook. That's weird.
Yeah, anyway. Every time I scroll, the trackpad makes a little buzzing noise. So we got a bunch of different questions about why we're vegan, if we're vegan for the environment, things like that. And I think the questions are so in-depth and they're honest. I almost feel bad for not being able to answer them because it would just take me forever to answer them.
Yeah, we did not get any stupid emails.
We did not.
Out of it.
So that was good. And if you want to see some of those examples of those, you can go to our blog and take a peek at those. Do we also have voicemails related to this?
Oh, yeah. You should play the one from Patrick.
Okay.
Hey, you guys. I couldn't remember your number, so I started singing the song, and then the number came to me. That's why you guys have to play songs when you go to different segments, because people like us can remember them. This is Patrick. I just delivered a huge 50-pie order to the Whole Foods Market in my delivery area, and it tipped awesome. I have to say that. But you know what they didn't order? They didn't order any vegan pizzas. It was 40 fucking pepperoni pizzas and then 10 cheese. So
We're thinking about.
And the last time we did a show, which was eons ago, we had a voicemail from someone who was looking for vegan Indian cookbooks. And we've gotten, I think it's the same recommendation from several people. There's a cookbook called The Vegan Taste of India by Linda, Majzlik. There are way too many...
Majlik.
way too many consonants in that one.
Majzlik.
Majzlik.
Magic.
Probably.
We'll just call her Magic.
Magic. Okay, that sounds good.
Linda Magic.
So Kat from Viva UK told us about that, and one of our other listeners told us about that. So if you want a vegan Indian cookbook, there you go.
Okay.
There's one for you.
Rockin'.
Yeah. And on that show, I think it was the same show. We were talking about how in San Francisco they were trying to put up milk ads with like scented cookie strips on them, and someone from our forums who's from San Francisco said, "Oh yeah, the whole got milk, piss, and cookies in bus shelters thing has been shut down. At least the cookies part. There were complaints that some people may have scent allergies, so the transit folks pulled the scent strips the next day. Nothing was said of the utter grossness and cruelty of advertising pus filled with suffering, of course. Now, if people wouldn't take a dump in Mooney bus shelters, that would be a further progress. You know it's bad when you yearn for nostalgically for the smell of piss while waiting for the bus instead. Blech." That's from Orion from the forums. Yeah, I could see how piss would smell good in that instance.
Yeah, definitely would. So what? Also, we were mentioned in Slate magazine in an article about Whole Foods. There was a link in the article to quote angry vegans. The little link was to angry vegans, and it went right to our site, which I thought was pretty funny. There was a pretty good rant, or not rant, but a kind of an analysis of that whole thing about using us as angry vegans that was done over on, whose blog was this? I meant to load this up before the show, and now I forgot. Idiot. Okay. Someone whose blog is called Satisfy the Mind kind of dissects the Slate piece pretty well and talks about how it is. He heard from a student of mine who graduated a number of years ago. He was pretty tight. His name was Noah. And he wrote to me and said, "You bastard, I had no idea you had a podcast," because and he's not a vegan, but he took a lot of classes with me, and he said every so often he just needs his little dose of Bob. Right? So I just wanted to say hi to Noah. And thanks for listening. And I can't imagine, we get emails from people who aren't vegan or even vegetarian who listen to the show, and I can't imagine how they can stand it.
I know.
It would drive me bonkers.
Me too.
Like, I don't know. I can't listen to things that I get annoyed with.
I can't listen to right-wing radio at all.
I can.
My blood pressure goes through the roof.
I
want to throw things.
I could listen to it and laugh, though. Like, I was listening to the Michael Reagan show on Sirius. When you aren't in the car, I listen to it. And I just kind of laugh at it. Like, the shit they say is just way out there. So anyway, I wanted to say thanks to Noah for listening in and just say hi to him. Also, another thing we need to talk about is that in the next show, or maybe next show, or the one after, soon, in any case, we are going to have Gary Francione back on the show for Vegan Freak Radio interview number 2. And we, in talking with Gary about what we could do for this, we were hoping to maybe do something a little more interactive. So what we would like are your questions for him to answer. We'll send them to him. We'll choose, if we get too many, we'll just choose as many as we can ask. We'll send them to him, and he'll talk about those on the radio with us.
Yeah, and I'll post something on the forums so people in the forums can post their questions.
And you can call in with a voicemail if you want. Mm-hmm. Make it less than 30 seconds, though. Make your questions pretty brief. Mm-hmm. I mean, they can be, if you write them out, we'll kind of excerpt out. But if you're going to do a voicemail, make it less than 30 seconds. Yeah. So that it's not, and get right to the point if you can. Unlike our show, you should get right to the point. So we're going to have Gary Francione back on soon. I know he's excited to be back on the show. And speaking of Gary Francione, he's actually, we wrote a blog entry at veganfreaks.org talking about something that he had written in his blog. And there were these things talking about him being master of the bad analogy and things like that. Comments that were following up from what we had written. And he came over to our blog and left some comments on the comments, and it's kind of interesting and fun. So you should go check that out. Good debate going on there. Well, relatively good debate.